Now, I don't know if y'all saw this young lady's video. I was shown it pretty early by TikTok. I saved it a couple days ago, but apparently it's gone pretty viral since, and she's made an update since. In the original video, it was this timeline that she made out of her own social media clips talking about this man, and obviously she starts out very happy and enamored with him. She talks about how she'd never been loved like that. It seems all really, really good up until the very last clip in which she's crying and explaining that they broke up. In her update, she also explains that she moved across the country for him. She was okay with him taking on like a difficult education opportunity. I think he's trying to become a doctor or something like that. Her thesis is that sometimes love just isn't enough, and I'm here to tell you that thesis is dead wrong. You need to throw love out the window when you're dealing with men, and I'm so serious. Not for any reason other than they did that with us a long time ago. Men have never centered women. Men have never cared about the love of women, okay? Men care about women's invisible labor, about the status that women bring them, and they care about their like legacy or whatever, so you bearing their children. Ironically, that's the one they're the least picky about, but the other two is definitely how men think, and it's definitely what happened here. Not only have I seen this happen 1,000 times on the internet, I've also witnessed it happen in real life. The reason I say you need to throw love out the window when dealing with men is because 99% of the time, men are not coming to you operating on that wavelength. Let me explain. When you think of love as a woman, you automatically, probably the first thing that comes to mind when you think of love is self-sacrifice. For men, I promise you, I guarantee you, and if men were being honest with themselves, they would confirm this too. And when they think of love, they think of it in terms of something they receive. And there's the fundamental difference. Women are primed and expect to give in a relationship. Women are primed to view love as self-sacrificial, whereas men are primed to take and receive in a relationship. And they tend to view love as, at best, transactional. But at worst, most men view it as something that they're entitled to. And not just the idea of love, the way that most men will wield it with you especially when they're trying to trap you into one of these like parasitic relationships that they want to have with you. They'll often use a lot of words to describe it without really following up with any actions. Whereas they expect the exact opposite of women. They expect women to just silently bring a lot of things to the table that they themselves are not willing to bring. In our society, we very dismissively call this a woman's touch, but it basically means that men expect you, if you are going to come into their life and share space with them, that you are going to be useful in lots of ways. When they think of love on the other end, like what's expected of them as far as that is just to receive it. They consider themselves a good guy because they're not beating you or cheating on you, abusing you in some other way. Honestly, they view themselves as a good guy even when they are doing those things. It's more about the narrative that they tell themselves and about the value that they tell themselves that they bring to your life. Now, when it comes to that value, you need to understand once again that men view value and worth very differently than you. Men are hierarchical creatures. They view the world in terms of hierarchy and where they fit into it. So a lot of times when a man starts to get himself together, starts getting his life together, he will often go for the best available to him. And if a man is like love bombing you like this, just know that yes, you are right now his best available. Now, if that man has plans to become a doctor, become a lawyer, all that stuff, etc., he is not planning on keeping you around. He may not even himself know this yet. But what he's going to realize when he gets into that new space and he gets around people that use big words and people that have more status than him, he's going to start realigning himself in this new hierarchy. Because maybe in this small town that you lived in or the small community that you were part of, he was probably a big fish in a little pond, and so were you. So he picked you because he viewed you as on his level. Now that he is sort of upgrading, he's going to realize that he views love as a lot more of a video game, and he is ready for an upgrade. And he's going to feel like his whole life is getting upgraded, including his career, including his access to people of high status. And he's going to realize he's ready for something, bigger, better, shinier, and something that fits in more with his new sort of upgraded lifestyle. And that's when you will become discarded, because men are only interested in romancing you and like putting in all this effort as long as they view you as the best available to them. That's really the secret. Operate accordingly. Okay, let's get into that. So how do you operate pragmatically with this knowledge? The answer is very, very simple. You center yourself always, just like a man would. And you look out for your best opportunities just like a man would. And remember that a man would never stop looking out for his best opportunities just because you came along. He will still continue looking out for his best opportunities, and better yet, he will drop you the moment that you are no longer like necessary or helpful or beneficial to him as a tool. Men really do go through life visualizing other people, but especially women, as tools rather than people. And they understand the basics of like manipulation, especially when they're coming to you with these grandiose love gestures, and know that for the time being, for the moment being, you are that man's best available, and conduct yourself accordingly. Because a lot of men see their best available as somebody who is not centering men. So a lot of girls will get into this very relationship right after being in a relationship with an abusive asshole. And they're going to feel like, oh my gosh, this new guy, he really sees my value, really loves me, I've never been loved like this, etc. And it's like, on one level, that is true. He does see your value and he does love that and he does want that. But on the other hand, he views you as his best available and as a whole and complete desirable person, most likely because you have been focusing on yourself, most likely because you have your own ducks in a row. And you most likely got there by decentering men and centering yourself because you were given no other option. Now the choice is yours. When you are given the option, are you going to center a man, or are you going to keep doing the thing that was actually giving you success in your own personal life and with men? Think about it, okay? Because this is how men think, and you need to learn to think like this. So instead of your boyfriend says, oh, I'm going to go do a medical residency in New York or something like that, instead of assuming, first of all, that he wants you to move with him, okay? A lot of young women make this mistake. Their boyfriend will say something like, hey, I have applied for and received an acceptance into this school, and I have accepted, and I am going to go do that. And it's like he hasn't even finished his sentence and you're already over there packing your things. Why? Why are you, first of all, assuming that he wants you there? Because for a lot of guys, this is just a great way to soft launch a breakup, and they're really hoping that you don't follow them. So save your own time, save your own energy, and just stay where you are and make a decision for yourself, okay? Unless that man has explicitly involved you in every part of that process, has told you that he wants you to come with, has made arrangements for you, has been thoughtful about whether this benefits you or not, etc. Even then, you need to think for yourself. You need to think, how do I improve my life while he's improving his to hopefully the same level or higher? You have to think for yourself. Another thing, even when you are in a good loving relationship, you should withhold your labor as much as that man does, and you should only give as much as that man gives, because once again, he has been primed to receive. You have been primed to give. You have actually been primed to be the alpha in a relationship, ladies. I need you to understand that. And you set the tone. So you need to hold back. I'm not talking about girlfriend, wifey privileges. I'm talking about, it doesn't matter what level of relationship you're at, whether you have a ring or you don't. This is the way that I live. I give on average as much as my husband, and lucky for me, he gives a lot. So we can both come together and have nice things, like a clean house, like a semi-organized schedule, like lots of fun hobbies, lots of adventures, and we both can have awesome careers that we both enjoy. Because one of us is not wringing themselves out for the other, right? One of us is not just over here like, yeah, I'll move for you, I'll cook for you, I'll clean for you, I will deal with you not having any time for me, I will be happy no matter what. Whereas the other person's like, okay, I'm not really asking you to do any of that, I'm just doing all this stuff for me, but okay. Which is, again, how most men perceive it when you're like, I'll get on all fours and you can use me as a footstool. And they're like, okay, I'm not really asking you to do that, but go ahead. Marriage is not a place for one person to be wrung out while the other person receives all the benefits of that. A marriage is a place for two people to not only make their life easier, but also co-create together and create on their own because of the fruitful soil that they're able to cultivate by both being givers in the relationship. And I don't mean just givers of like orchids or whatever, like thoughtful little gifts. Like, yeah, that's nice. But what the biggest thing my husband gives me is time and peace of mind. That allows me to pursue myself, which allows us to pursue each other. You need to always be thinking of, how does this help me? How does this benefit me? How can I equally benefit myself? And your partner should be thinking in those same ways. They should never be so nonchalant about you taking an L to move somewhere just for them, deal with like difficult, work hours, clean up after them, to cook for them, to make their life easy. And of course, you're going to feel like you wasted a bunch of time and you're going to feel very slighted. You're going to feel heartbroken. You're going to feel like everything was unfair. But if the whole time you were like, no, I'm getting mine, he's getting his, if you were thinking for yourself, and I really mean that, like almost selfish, like it's going to feel selfish to you as a woman, but I assure you it's just normal. It's normal to want the best for yourself. And women need to learn that. Women get into a relationship and they're like, I just want to see that man thrive. It's like, no, stop that. You should be thriving in your relationship. And what is he doing to facilitate that? This is where men often just don't give a fuck. For better or for worse, you need to start viewing the system in the same way as men do. You need to start viewing this whole life thing as a video game with upgrades, with challenges, and with you being the main fucking character, ladies. You are the main character of your own life. Nobody's coming to help or save you, especially not a man. You are only good to a man as long as you are serving his needs and purposes. And they have really stopped at nothing to be completely clear and honest with us about this in the ways that they behave. And yet, every day on this app, there's another freshly heartbroken woman who followed a man's dreams across a country or across an ocean or whatever, and then ended up getting dumped and having to move back in with her parents while he starts a brand new life and has a new girlfriend/fiance 2 to 6 months later. Meanwhile, he was telling her like, oh, I just need to take time to focus on myself. I won't be ready for a relationship for a long time. This just isn't the right time for me, All of that will change in 2 to 6 months when the upgraded girls whose attention he really wants start paying attention to him. And that's really why he dumped you, because he knew that was going to happen. And he knew that he would jump on the opportunity. And a lot of men really have no problem even just keeping you around until then, until that very last moment. So please do not ever put your life, dreams, your security on hold to move with a man. If doing something for a man or doing something just to stay with a man requires you to uproot your life, to have no more security, to rely on him in any way, to isolate yourself from like family and friends, just simply don't do it. Just say, no, I can't. Because first of all, if it was important enough to him, he would have considered you to begin with. And he would have invited you to come with him, or he would have made arrangements for you. If he's acting nonchalant about like, oh, I accepted this and I'm going, like no pressure to go with me, that's not your man. He's already looking for somebody else. If this in any way like impacts your career or even just like your comfort levels, then it's not for you. And honestly, by forcing a move when you weren't explicitly asked, or by forcing some sort of continuation where the man was maybe hoping to actually cut things off, you're only prolonging and making more painful the thing that's going to happen inevitably. Please don't do that. Please learn to be honest with yourself. Learn to see the red flags when they pop up. If a man starts talking about, I accepted this and I got in and I'm going to be moving, just assume you're not coming with. and proceed accordingly. Because honestly, that puts kind of undue pressure on the man that most of them can't handle. Once again, I'm explaining to you ladies, we are raised to be the alphas. We are raised to make the unpleasant decisions, the self-sacrificial decisions, that have the difficult conversations. Men are not used to that. They're not going to have that difficult conversation with you until they just flat out care so little about you that they rip it off like a band-aid when you had no idea that this was even coming. That's one of the biggest things you need to understand, is sometimes men will just like sort of placate you and like play nice until they have exhausted themselves of any empathy or sympathy for you, and they're just like, yeah, you know what, I just can't do this anymore, bye. You're like, how could they be so cold? How could they be so harsh? Eventually you'll look back and you'll realize that the last like 3 to 6 months of your relationship, you were the only one doing any work. You were the only one putting in any real effort. You were making excuses for him, but the warning signs will have been there. It's just that once again, we as women are trained not to see them, or we're trained to ignore them, or we're trained to write them off as like, he's tired, he's busy, etc. He still loves you, it's fine. Just keep making those sacrifices, keep trucking along, and your relationship will be stronger because of it, etc. And what actually ends up happening is the guy just waits so long and waits to lose all interest in you until he can just give you the finger and tell you to get the F away from him. That's how it's gonna feel. Which once again, if anything, proves my thesis that men view love completely differently than women do. And that men view commitment completely differently than women do. And that you need to get aligned with that and start acting accordingly and start thinking in the same way as them in order to avoid getting hurt like this. Because I personally have watched so many young women lose their spark over something like this. And it would have been so easily preventable if we were taught as women to center ourselves first and foremost, and to really view our goals and our even like immediate interests as the priority. But instead, we as women go into relationships expecting to sacrifice and compromise and concede, while the men are primed to receive all that, and then at the end of it all say your famous phrase, "You didn't have to do that. You didn't have to do any of that. I didn't ask you to do that. You wanted to do that." And basically make light of all your sacrifice and tell you that wouldn't have mattered and you didn't have to do it. Now, the important thing is for you to realize that they say that because it's the truth. Once again, you need to conduct yourself accordingly. All right, ladies, stay safe out there. Godspeed. I love you so much. Mwah.